All right, guys, this is Mr. Collins. These notes are for the students who may have missed Monday, November 16th or Tuesday, November 17th, and missed the notes that we went through in class that I think was very helpful. In fact, I gave an alternate test quiz uh, for based on last week's quiz, and most every student raised their score significantly. So I am basically going to start sharing my screen and show you what we went through. Okay, so I'm going to start with the whiteboard. I'll show you the notes that I've already put there. So first of all, just some shortcuts for calculating scale factor. First of all, calculating scale factor. I do have some misspelled words and it's too difficult to correct them after I've typed them in, but you'll figure it out. Calculating scale factor. If you are going from a small figure to a large figure, your answer, your scale factor will always be greater than one. Okay. If you're going from a large figure to a small figure, your scale factor will be less than one. Now, these are the examples. If you're going, I'm going to draw some numbers here. Let's say this is a one, this is a two. We'll say this is, we've already got X there, so we'll say that we'll make it easy. We'll say this is, let's just say three. Okay. So that's a three. So X to calculate scale factor, you don't have to even do your calculator for this one. You know, you're going this way, your answer is going to be greater than one. Okay. So that means if you divide one by three, you know that's going to be less than one. If you divide three by one, however, that is going to be greater than one. In fact, that answer is three. So then you know your scale factor. Sorry about drawing right there. Your scale factor equals three. So that's your scale factor. Now, since we now know the scale factor, and always remember that if you're doing a missing side, well, let's just go ahead and talk about this down here. To find a missing side using that scale factor, calculate the scale factor, which we just did for this first set, multiply the scale factor times corresponding side of amount you know. That sounds like a mouthful, but I'll walk you through it. The result will be the amount for the missing side. Excuse me. In other words, calculate your scale factor. You know this, what this side right here is, that one. Use your scale factor, multiply by the number you know, that will give you X. So in this case, 2 times 3 equals 6. And since these are similar figures, that is your ratio. The answer for X is 6. Let's do it on the bottom one. And to make things easier, even though you can tell it's not exactly the same, let's make the dimensions of the same. Let's say we don't know X yet, even though we know from up here it was 2. And then over here, we'll mark 3 for this side, and we will mark 6 for this side. Now, let's say we are asked if we are, first of all, let's say if you're asked if the scale factor, what is the scale factor from this figure to this figure? That means you're going down. And as we see in our rule, if you're going from a large figure down to a small figure, your scale factor will be less than one. So at first glance, you might say, well, I'm going to divide 3 by 1. But given your rule, you know that can't be right because my answer in that case would be greater than 1. So let's divide it in the other direction, see if that works. 1 divided by 3, that would be less than 1. So our scale factor, if we are going from a large figure to a small figure, is going to calculate. You could write it as either the fraction 1/3, or I'll just put the word or down here. if you're using a calculator, that's going to show up as 0.33. And of course, that 3 is repeating, so it would continue forever. But now we have the information we need. Again, to find this missing side, calculate the scale factor, multiply that same scale factor by the amount you know. We know 6, that's right here. We know the scale factor is 1/3. So we know our missing side is 1/3 of 6, or 2. So X equals 2. And that coincides with the example up here. We come back to the number we started with. So those are your rules. Those are your rules. If going from a small figure to a large figure, your scale factor will be greater than 1. If going from a large figure to a small figure, your scale factor will be less than 1. And given that, to find missing side using scale factor, calculate the scale factor and then multiply that scale factor times the corresponding side of the amount you know. The result will be the amount for the missing side, or your X amount. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to stop sharing long enough to go back in and get away from the whiteboard and see if we can't apply that to what we're looking at. So first thing, let's go back into our actual test questions. This is another copy of quiz 2 that you took last week. Let's apply the rules to that. First of all, find the scale factor of ABCD to EFGH. So you're going from small to large. So given the rule you just wrote down, that means your answer is going to be greater than 1. And in this case, 25 divided by 10 would in fact give us an answer that's greater than 1. Let's go down to the second question. In this case, however, we're going from scale factor from ABCD down to PQRS, so that we know our first calculation, our scale factor is going to be less than 1. So that means we're not dividing 32 by 4. That would be greater than 1. We're dividing 4 by 32, and that would be our scale factor, okay? On the next one, now we're finding missing side. So we're going to do scale factor first. In this case, our X is on the larger figure. So that means we're going this way. Let me pull my annotator up real quick to make sure you understand what I'm saying, okay? We're going from the small figure to the large figure. And to do that, we are going to go from the 10 over to the 9. Our answer is going to be greater than 1. So that means we have to divide 90 by 10. You know in your head that that's 9. And then this side corresponds to this side. So we take that 9, multiply by 7. That's how we get to our answer. Of course, these are just examples, but of course that would give you the answer of 63. That's where that came from. Here we're identifying the missing side for X. These are kind of turned in opposite directions, but it doesn't matter because you know that the X is on the larger figure. So our scale factor is going to be greater than 1. So let's calculate it first. 48 divided by 6, you calculate that. That's going to give you 8. And then you would multiply that 8 times 5 to get the answer for X. And that is, in fact, 40. If I click on this, you can see the answer. That is, in fact, 40 right here, okay? Let's go down to the next example. Identify the missing side length for X. You know how to do this now. Again, in this example, it's on the large figure. So our scale factor, first of all, is going to be greater than 1. So in this case, we're going to divide 7.5 by 5 and then multiply it by 8 to get our X. And then when we go down to 6, in this case, our X is on our smaller figure. So first of all, the scale factor is going to be less than 1 because we're going from big to small, Okay. So it's going to be less than 1. So in this case, we would divide our 16 by 24, since those are corresponding sides. We'd get that factor, multiply by 21. All right. So that means scale factor is less than 1. So when we multiply that by 21, we're going to come up with an answer that's less than 1. Okay. So 16, I'm going to just double check that and do it on my calculator while I'm talking. 16, you might be able to tell in your head, 16 divided by 24 equals 0.67. If we multiply that times 21, that gives us, I might have misspoke before. The overall answer is not going to be less than 1. The scale factor is less than 1. And that does, in fact, give us an answer of 14. If I click that, you'll see that that answer was 14. Okay. Then we have nested triangles. These are exactly the same. It's just that the smaller triangle is inside the larger one. The same rationale pertains. Okay. Now, first of all, here is your homework that we actually did in class, and you can use the same procedure. This is under Stretching and Shrinking 4.3. The title of the assignment is 12-pointer. So these are what you're going to see. Triangles below are similar. Find the missing side by X. Make sure you use your rules and go through that. Same for the rectangles. You'll have to determine which side they correspond to each other. Here you're finding ratios, and you're just saying the short side to the long side. And for instance, on this first one, it would be 12. That's the short side divided by the long side of 20. And then go down here and check multiple boxes that are true. Okay. Calculate all of those. Then you're going to use the same pictures to determine which of those rectangles were similar. And you're going to use the same picture number 3 to answer this question. Find the scale factor from B to A. You've got all your rules beside you now, so you can do it. And then finally, number 6, which of these parallelograms are similar? And you do that, of course. You can do this just by looking at the degrees, because you know if it's got like degrees in the same corner, you know which one are the same. So now let me show you this then. Here's what you're looking at in your Google Classroom to make up your work. 12-pointer, that's what I was just showing you. Then the next one says Spirals Quiz, Scales and Nests. That is your test makeup for last week to try to improve your scores. 2 of the questions are the same, but the rest are different. So you're going to have to be prepared for that. Okay. So do your best, keep those rules out at your side, and you'll do fine. As always, if you need to ask me questions, please feel free to do so. And I hope this recording helped you.